All right, ladies and gentlemen, I promise you, this is worth the wait. I promise you that this is definitely worth the delay. We've wanted to get him on for a while, but it's definitely worth it. It's the right time. He's got a huge match upcoming here next Friday for CCW Lapman Lockdown. It's an interesting tag team match. I'm excited about it. He has a lot to say about that, and plus a lot going on here when it comes to the CWO and Rockstar Rob Bagwell, who was with us obviously not too long ago, and Taylor Trude's the newest member. So we'll dive into all of that here shortly. So with further ado here on the Sports Report. Number one, Level Sports Show, pro wrestling star here from CCW. That's Dustin Heart. My friend, how are you?
I'm great. And what an introduction that was. Wow.
Well, I hope that if they write my obituary one day, hopefully that obituary is due to ring introductions. That's what I can certainly promise you, that I'd be more than happy to go out that way. We've already got some comments in here, and we've already got one of our very good supporters, obviously, CCW, says, my favorite CCW wrestler. So certainly we are chimed in. We are ready to rock and roll, and we apologize for a little bit of the delay here on Sportswire Radio. We had some technical difficulties, but that does happen here. But Dustin, I mean, obviously a very, very busy time for you. And I got to ask you, the main question that CCW fans are asking is, you win this contract last month at the last show in Colnot Dole, and last I checked, you still haven't received that contract. I mean, what's going on here?
Well, this is typical Barris games, you know. Something that's all mine he won't give. And he's taking it each and every advantage and twisting at every turn.
So why do you think that is then in this case? I mean, obviously, we spoke a lot about the card last month when we had Rob Bagwell, obviously your brethren in the CWO, and I mean, you won this fair and square. I mean, so what's your feelings?
This is just all love and war with Barris. Fun and games. It's always about games.
So are you saying that maybe Mr. Barris kind of almost moves the goalpost at any given moment?
Every time. Every time. But what Barris has got to remember is the longer he keeps that contract away from me, the more he is at risk. Because until I get that contract, I can do as I please. If I want to give him a visit, there's nothing stopping us.
Well, don't tell us when you're going to do that. Don't tell us how you're going to do that, because obviously there'll be plenty of people here in CCW that'll find out, and those are here on Sportswire Radio will, I'm sure, also find that out. So, I mean, obviously it's well documented, though, also going into this with the CWO that we did touch upon it. There's this whole kind of, I guess, situation that we have between Prince Stegan and Rob Bagwell here, and I mean, what do you make of this situation, and what do you think happens here?
Well, the way I see it is, Rob knows good talent, you know.
He sure does. He sure does.
And he must see something special in Dagon for to even offer him a top and a part and a place in CWO.
Well, how do you feel about it? Do you want Prince Dagan in the CWO? I mean, obviously, we had Prince on, we had Rob on. I mean, is this something? Go ahead.
I trust Rob's judgment.
You trust Rob's?
He's got plenty of years' experience. He knows what it takes, and he knows how to get it.
All right. Well, we'll certainly find out here. Let me get to a few comments in here. Looking forward to the next show on the 29th. It's already coming up here next Friday. So time definitely flies here when you're having fun, and CCW is always having fun here. And please give a like to their page on Facebook at Color Championship Wrestling. And Gam Grest says, evening, Tom and Dustin. So obviously, good evening to you as well, my friend. So we're looking forward to all of that here on Sportswire Radio with Dustin Heart here. And I mean, so going back to this here with the CWO, and you guys seem to be growing now. The group seems to be getting stronger and stronger. I mean, do you feel like, God, jump in.
Nobody knows how many members there are in the CWO. What they've got to remember is the reason CWO was formed. Now, from day one, it's always been me, the leader of the Underground Brotherhood, against every other competitor. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And after so much time, and Barras keep going, there's only you. There's no Underground Brotherhood. You've got no backup. That's when I decided to either give up or pick up the game. And I had a little conversation with a friend of mine, and they put me on a task to find people who were worthy to be part of CWO. Not these people who love the limelight, but normal people, regular people, people from our mining areas.
So let me ask you then, do you almost feel like it was back against the wall and it almost maybe motivated you in a sense to kind of go out and find CWO members and make this group more or less?
More or less, yeah. But to be honest, you don't really have to fit in. We're not about fitting in. We're all outcasts. And I don't mind that.
So that almost tells me then, leading back into Prince Dagan, then maybe Rob Bagwell, when we had him on here, and certainly watching the match, and we kind of thought it was going to be a match of the night candidate, and certainly was, and most people felt that it was last month. So basically, after what you told me, then Prince Dagan does actually make perfect sense when it comes to being a member of the CWO. Basically, after what you just told us, is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. That is fair to say. Because what you got to realise, there's not just Dagon that comes. If Dagon comes, Spawn comes. Reverend Dudes.
But what's going on with Reverend Dudes? I mean, that's the big mystery here right now in CCW. What is going on with Reverend Dudes? We had him on just about a week or so before the match, maybe even less than that. And since then, I don't know what's happened to Reverend Dudes. Do you have an idea?
Nobody's seen him.
Interesting. Do you think maybe there was something to what Rob Bagwell was saying all along about Dudes and Dagan? Because, again, when we had them on, there was a lot of members of the CCW fan base in the universe that were kind of talking about some of these different things. And, I mean, like you just said, Rob has the experience. He knows the game, and maybe there was something to everything that he said here.
Well, only time will tell, won't it?
Well, certainly that means stay tuned, because obviously CCW has another huge show coming up here, which we are 9 days or so away from. So, I mean, there's a heat wave right now going on around the world, but CCW is heating things up once again in 10 consecutive sellouts. I mean, that's quite a feat here. I mean, it's one thing if you get one sellout or two sellouts here and there, but I mean, you guys keep rolling on. I remember speaking with you guys, I think it was just after 7 sellouts. So now it's 10, and I'm sure we'll get to 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and so on. I mean, what does that feel in terms of working for a company like this that has 10 consecutive sellouts?
Well, to be honest, since being here from day one, I know all about selling the shows out. But
that's all you know. That's all you know is selling shows out. I mean, you don't know anything else otherwise.
Well, before CCW, I never sold shows out on other companies.
But hey, but I'll give you a catch. You weren't the Dustin Heart that we all know and love right now, though. Big difference.
That's right. Big difference. You know, and since come to CCW and creating this amazing story and roller coaster of a train ride we do now, it's just so unreal. You know, just to see the young talent, the young bloods coming up through the ranks and getting into having shows, having matches. It's great. Absolutely great.
Absolutely, no question about that. And I'll come back to some of that, but I do have to get to a few comments, and that is, of course, the man you just mentioned a few minutes ago. That is the owner of CCW and certainly the leader of Top Tier, Mr. James Barris. So let me get to Mr. Barris's comments in here. He says, "Not this clown. I made Dustin Hart. I took him to the top, and he was never grateful." So what's your response then to Mr. Barris?
Mr. Barris, you made Dustin Hart. No, I do believe the Undergrounders made Dustin Hart. I created Dustin Hart. And now you're saying I wasn't grateful. Who had your back when you were running like a little girl, when the elite were taking over? Who was the only person to have your back throughout the last 2 years? But yet you thought it was great to take your cheap shot at the end of the match and join your top tier.
Well, he definitely did do that, and also want to get to a few other comments before I come back to Mr. Barris. CWO. So let me do that for you. CWO. And then I wouldn't be able to really do the NWO music because I just don't really have the quite timing on that. But also, I have here from Mr. Barris, I take no responsibility for the terrible face paint. So would you like to address the face paint then for Mr. Barris or anybody else that might be looking? Because I know there'll be people that'll message me and say, "Oh, I saw you with that wrestler." I know with Prince Dagan, for example, I had a basketball coach actually in New York who I had met for the first time. And he messaged me, says, "I really saw you with that wrestler with the face paint on it. What was that like, speaking to a wrestler with face paint on?" I'm like, well, it's like speaking to anybody else. You have a conversation. So, I mean, that's kind of my, line with that.
Well, Mr. Barris, about the face paint, when you go to your shows and you look out amongst our fans, what do you see? You see all them little kids with what? Their face painted. Why? Because all young blood undergrounders.
And certainly we wouldn't confuse you for last week. We had another face-painted wrestler from Nonstop Action Wrestling, also was in the GT Ministries event numbers last week, Remus Kane, and he was getting some comments saying that he was a member of a KISS tribute band, but I don't think I can confuse you with that. So that's the good news here. So certainly we wouldn't say that about you. But I mean, we have Mr. Barris here. I mean, do you want to talk about that contract still that you haven't received? Because I see that he's been commenting. I mean, now's your chance.
Why not? Mr. Barris, why don't we make an arrangement to meet up? Yeah? We'll meet up anywhere you want, anytime you want, as long as you're willing to give me that contract. I'll be fair and I'll keep my hands to myself.
Now, would you want him to meet just you and him one-on-one, or does it have to be CWO and Top Tier? I mean,
to me, they don't fear me. Whether there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Barris knows the numbers game don't make a difference.
Well, I'll tell you what, certainly the leader of the underground has definitely spoken, comes to that. And who do they all want? Face paint like Dustin. And then Mr. Barris comes in and says here, I see a bunch of kids that were paid with popcorn and hot dogs to get that terrible design painted on their faces. Poor Dustin. So were they paid in hot dogs? I do hear, by the way, it's a running joke that there are some wrestling companies that do pay their wrestlers in hot dogs. So I've heard that. Not CCW, but just in general. So it's not here. That I can promise you.
Not to my knowledge. But Mr. Barris, you've got to realise, every kid that sits there with a smile on their face, with their face painted, go home happy, tired, and give the parents a really easy night, which it's all about. Everybody has fun. Now, if you're going to be such a sad person and put down face paint, then maybe we should have a stipulation one day. Whereas, if I win, you get your face painted.
Well, Mr. Barris has chimed in here and he says, Dustin, I already put you down twice. Third time, you'd not be so lucky.
Mr. Barris, remember, you've only been through 2 stages of hell, you still have one stage to go, and that can come anytime, any place, anywhere.
Well, we'll certainly find out here. And Mr. Barris also chimes in here and says, ban Dustin painted faces at CCW. Is that possible? Can you actually ban people that paid a
God,
ticket?
that's
Is
a
that
ban
possible?
my face paint ever. My face paint is CCW orientated.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, we see the CCW wall paint in the background, and clearly things at CCW are represented very well here by Dustin Heart, to say the least. I have to ask you then, because we kind of briefly touched upon it, and I heard you also talk about it on Slugger's show, the First Amendment show, which you can find Fridays at 9 o'clock British Standard Time. And of course, Slugger will be on with us tomorrow night, 8:30, and he'll have a lot to say because he's been a very, very busy man here of late. But I mean, talk about then how Dustin Hart all came about here in CCW, because you're the first person to have ever really been a member of the CCW locker room and the roster.
Yeah, well, Dustin Hart is a combination of two of my favourite wrestlers.
Okay.
And the key thing is in the name. Dustin, i.e. Dusty Rhodes, Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be Gold Dust, Dustin Rhodes. I didn't think that Dustin Rhodes was going to be one of your first. I was like, I knew the Bret Hart reference, but I was like, it definitely wasn't going to be Dustin Rhodes, that's for sure.
And to put the two together, I thought it made a really good name. Now, that name fitted with our mining heritage.
Okay.
The CCW is built around the mining.
Yep.
And the Elite are, how we can say, the Margaret Thatcher boys. The bad people, you know. And from day one, I've been battling them. And there's been so many members and so many different battles in so many different places that I couldn't pick just one battle out, you know. With our mining heritage around here, we don't have much memories of it. We have little statues and stuff, but the youth of today won't even remember what parents tell them or read about it. So, in a way, if it wasn't for mining, there would be nobody around here. You know, people wouldn't have had a comfortable living because it was nothing but coal. That was your way of living. That's how you made your living.
Okay. Well, let me get to a few other comments, because if I don't do that, I wouldn't be doing my job here on Sportswire Radio. Ban Barris for the show as well. He is the owner. I don't know how you ban him. I don't know how that works. But Mr. Barris also says, I will say this about Dustin. He does have the balls, and he definitely does have the heart, but he definitely doesn't have a top-tier mentality. And he also says, and there's no Dustin fans in the house tonight.
I beg to differ. I know there's definitely two.
Okay. Okay. Well, I do know that we've had some comments, and listen, we love everybody here on Sportswire Radio, and with a name Top Turd, your mind is going to be turd here. And we then have here biggest Dustin Hart fan in the house. So I'll ask you that as a follow-up, and kind of going back off Mr. Barris for a second. Seeing all those fans that paint your face or chant your name and get involved in the underground and the CWO and everything else, I mean, what does that mean to you to have the fan base that you have?
That means absolutely everything. I don't think I could comprehend exactly what it could mean, but truly melts my heart every time I step out from that curtain, and the roar, wow, it makes the hairs on my arms, the back, it all stands up, and it makes me so proud just to see the smiles on their faces. And when the show's finished and people come and meet and greet, and they all explain that they've had such an amazing time, and the parents have brought the kids to have an amazing time, but in fact, they've had a better time than the kids.
That's interesting. Was that kind of the response that you expected, or the reaction that you would get?
Not at all. I expected them to say that the kids really enjoyed themselves and it was a great show. I didn't expect them to say that they thoroughly enjoyed it as well.
So what makes the CWO unique then, let's say, not just, let's say, Top Tier, the Elite, or just any other group in wrestling? Because I speak with wrestling companies all the time, as I'm sure you're aware of, in different groups. But, I mean, what does the CWO stand out so much to make it so unique versus other groups?
Well, if you noticed in CCW, every other group somehow, some reason, have to have an argument, a disagreement, bickering. Now with CWO, we don't have that. We actually talk to each other. We're all good friends. We all believe in each other, and we all have each other back 100%.
All right. Well, let me get to a comment from somebody that is allowed us to share on his page. That is also from the Sports Authorities group, Mr. John Gonzalez. John is a very good friend of mine. I'm actually a moderator in the group. And John says greetings. And I think John is from the Garden State, the state of New Jersey. And he says greetings, love wrestling. In fact, John has messaged me telling me how much he enjoys the wrestling interviews that we do with CCW and some of the other companies. He's actually added, thankfully now in his group, more wrestling coverage. So I really appreciate John's support and his friendship. And also, before I get to Mr. Barris, have to give a huge recognition to Mr. Jack Bartley, because Jack is going to be a huge part of things here. He's going to be squaring off against Chris Onyx next week. And what do you want to say here to Mr. Bartley? Because obviously Mr. Bartley might be certainly changing some titles in top tier, and wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, Jack, I'm behind you. You know, I'm 100% behind you, because there's nothing more I want to see than Onyx lose that title. That title needs respecting. And at the moment, that's not getting the respect it deserves. Champion.
Well, we'll definitely find out here. Also, want to give another shout out to my very good friend, Mr. Anthony Finkel. And Anthony has become a huge wrestling fan over the past several months. And he's checking in from Brooklyn, New York. And he says he loves the face paint. Yeah, because Anthony's probably working in, like, again, really hot weather, same as what it is for you guys, probably what it's about 22 degrees right now where you guys are. It's almost about that here in New York. Just about. We're just about there. Give us 2 days. We'll probably do get the same temperature, and Anthony's probably boiling right now in that weather, and he says he loves the face paint because he can't pull it off right now. It's too hot where he is. And let me come back to Mr. Barris, though. Dustin, I know you're getting old, but just wanted to break some news that we will have 3 shows within 4 weeks. Wow, you are definitely working day and night here, that's for sure, when it comes to CCW. August 27th, Genius of the Ring. September 10th, Over 18 show. The Peace Out Tournament, September 30th, Mind for Glory. So we've got a lot of shows here coming up. I mean, we just did coverage in another company, and they had 2 shows in 2 weeks, but you guys got 3 and 4. I mean, are you ready to work that much? And what can we expect from you there?
A very, very busy time ahead, and I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be a test for every person on the roster. It's going to be a really big test, from doing regular sellouts once a month to actually doing these over 18 shows, the tournaments, and then all the other shows on top of that. Now, it's a big task.
I hope your body can hold up in that, because that's 3 shows in 4 weeks. And knowing your matches, I mean, these are going to be some intense matches, no doubt, that I'm sure you're going to be a part of coming up here. I mean, August 27th, first of all, ain't far away. We know next Friday's upon us. Then you got a couple shows right after that, the 10th and the 30th. So, I mean, you're going to be working, as Michael Jackson used to famously sing, day and night. That's for sure, because you got 4 shows. I'll even do a bonus. We have 4 shows right now in about 5 weeks. So that means you're going to be a busy man there.
Very busy. Very busy. And I'm up for that task. And
I have a very good feeling that you are, and we are speaking with pro wrestling star here, Dustin Heart. He is the leader of the Underground. He is CWO for life, and he is getting ready for a huge match, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes on Sportswire Radio. And if you like what you hear from CCW Colory Championship Wrestling, please do like their Facebook page. They are well over 4,000 members strong here, so they are certainly rolling. So I remember when they had, I think it was like 26 or 2,700 400. Now they're up to 4,000. And they're the only wrestling company, by the way, that their wrestlers update their fan base each and every single day. You see streams on the Facebook page daily. You've got Slugger Hampton show. You've got Taylor Trude's show. You've got Colin McGregor, who's going to be back with us next week. Obviously, he'll be with us with John Rowlandson, the voice of reason. Mr. Barris has his shows. He's on almost pretty much every day. Well, because he is the boss. I mean, there are so many great shows. Rob Bagwell is on there from time to time. I mean, there is so much content on the page. You need to go over, like it, and trust me, you will definitely like it. And if you do like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, I highly encourage you to give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. And for now, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. We are speaking with all things related here to Dustin Heart as we get ready for Lapman Lockdown next Friday. And Jack Bartley chimes in here and says, thank you, Dustin. I really appreciate your support. So, I mean, you feel like he's got a shot to pull this off here or what?
Yeah, he's definitely got a shot. I don't mind him winning that belt, kicking it warm for when I get round to having a match run.
Okay, well, we'll certainly see. Stay tuned. And Michael Brown says lots of shows to look forward to. Absolutely. And also Uncle Ralph, got to give Uncle Ralph a mention. And he says, don't forget the Countess. Her show is worth watching as well. Yes, Rio Delador, definitely want to give her a shout out. Obviously, I've spoken with Rio. I know that she had some technical difficulties, I think, with her stream. I think that's what I probably saw on the Facebook page. I think it was it yesterday or a couple days ago? There was something on the page. So definitely not want to leave out Rio. And Mr. Barris has also done this for over 2 years, entertain the top tier fans. Well, I'm going to just say that all of the fans of CCW, regardless of whether they're CWO, regardless of their elite, regardless of their top tier, are definitely fans here and definitely top tier. And I also want to give a shout out, obviously, first, before I get to your match, to somebody that's obviously a huge part of things over in GT Ministries. And of course, GT Ministries had one of the best events that I saw in a long time. And it was, I think, personally, better than WrestleMania or Forbidden Door, anything that I've seen in quite a while at numbers. And certainly you might know who this individual is, and you might know who he is. And he says, huge thank you to the lads from CCW who traveled 2 hours to Bradford this weekend. They were all extremely professional and a pleasure to have around. Let me ask you, before we get to your match, when you saw the Elite, when you saw Slugger Hampton, especially Slugger, because Slugger was the last person to be eliminated in the GTM Rumble against Gareth Angel, and he was right there, Slugger. And Slugger's had a lot of success in GTM. What does that mean to somebody like yourself who's been such a supporter of CCW and spent so much this company to you, to see the kind of success and the show of force that CCW had this past weekend over at GTM numbers?
Well, it's absolutely phenomenal. You know, to see, was it Tommy Diamond?
Yep.
Wall Street.
Yep.
Them doing a tag team in another company. Phenomenal. And then we had Slugger battling all the way.
Oh, he was right there. Listen, we had Slugger on right before that, and he was one of the guys I thought that would probably have been in the running, and I think he even did better than even most people thought he would did, and he was still a contender to begin with. I mean, he was this close right now to being the number one contender. And I saw Jack Johnson, when Jack Johnson was the GTM champion, by the way, when Jack Johnson looked over at Slugger and he gave that kind of look at him, I think Mr. Johnson deep down, he didn't want no part of Slugger when Slugger was down on the floor after he was eliminated. So, I mean, that shows you right now that the respect, I think, that Slugger has, and I think CCW has, because he represented everybody, and he represented them proudly, in my opinion.
He did. He done everybody really proud, including himself. You know, and he, like you said, he was that close.
He was right there. I mean, listen, when I saw him and Gareth go in, and my guy Disciple was the third person to be eliminated, he was the third to last, I was like, wow. And Slugger eliminated him. So, I mean, that gives you a lot. Listen, and Slugger eliminating Disciple was a big deal. I mean, listen, Disciple was one of those guys. He's won Rumbles. He's been a world champion. So that shows you now Slugger he's a guy that's a main event. He's a main event star right now. So that gives you a lot of credit, but we'll come back to some of that in a second. Let me get to some more comments related to GTM. And Michael Brown was obviously there, and I saw Michael in the stands there, and was a great show at GTM on Saturday. It was worth the travel, and also it was a pleasure to visit GTM, and everyone made us so welcome. And he also says Tommy and Walker put up a good fight, so close to winning. And I got to say real quick before I get to your tag match in a second, I mean, that was a match that was literally, I mean, what did they have? A minute's notice, 2 minutes notice, Tommy Diamond and Walker Wall Street. And that was a very impressive showing because we didn't know what to expect in that match.
No, well, when I watched that match, they put on a really powerful performance. Really strong, really strong. And the two lads they were faced, I can't remember the name, but
doesn't matter. We don't need to mention them. We're on CCW grounds right now, so no worries.
Them two lads, they pulled out some dirty tricks to get their win.
Yes, and that was actually the announcers, including one of them was Old School MC2, who certainly is not exactly a fan favorite by any stretches. And Joel Cobra, of course, Joel has mixed it up a little bit with CCW talent, especially Slugger and the Wolf of West Yorkshire, DB Riley. But there's no question that they were robbed as well. And also want to get to some more comments related to that. And I first want to go to Uncle Ralph before I get to Mr. Barris. Slugger must have had the best strike rate with 5 or 6 people he eliminated. Yeah, you know what? I think you might be right. I think him and Gareth might have been. I'd have to go back and watch the Rumble itself. I mean, Gareth obviously lasted longer because he was, I think, the number 4 participant, I think. But certainly him and Gareth were definitely neck and neck for that. I mean, Slugger, definitely those punches, those clotheslines, everything he did here. So there's no question about that. But let me get to a comment from somebody that's a friend of mine in another company. And I want to bring up this individual because I think he'd be okay with me saying who he is because he also came on here and he just did an interview over on 3 Count Radio, which I actually watched last night with Adam Barker. And Adam Barker is a wrestling fan in the UK and he goes to a lot of shows, mainly the LWF. And this individual might be somebody that you might want to call the mysterious Mr. B. And he has certainly been a huge staple of things on Sportswire Radio. And he says here, meaning you have an amazing look. So from one, I guess, face-painted wrestler to a masked wrestler in the mysterious Mr. B. So I guess you want to give him a nod, maybe?
Hey, thank you. Respect given, respect sent back at you. Thank you.
And the mysterious Mr. B is a big fan of ours on Sportswire Radio. And the mysterious Mr. B, I will find the time to bring you back on Sportswire Radio. Because after I watched last night's interview, I said to myself, well, we have to do better than the interview that mysterious Mr. B was a part of. But if you do like the mysterious Mr. B, I highly encourage you give him a follow on Instagram because he is somebody that you look him up. I'm telling you, this guy is going to have his own show one of these days. So certainly he's a guy to follow. And Mr. Barris says Slugger Hampton was robbed. Yeah, there's no question. I think that Slugger's performance between him and Gareth, I mean, it's definitely one of those. It's a heartbreaker because it would have really meant a lot, I think, for CCW to be put on that stage there. Could you imagine that? I mean, I leave aside your issues with top tier, but could you have imagined that Jack Johnson and Slugger Hampton for the GTM World Championship at Chronicles, which is the biggest event that GTM has to offer? I mean, that would have been a big, big deal in the professional wrestling world here. So that would have been big, my friend.
Really big crossover deal. 2 companies colliding, 1 big title. Wow.
Yeah, well, something tells me that's going to happen still. It's still going to happen one because I feel like Slugger is not done by a long shot in GTM. And tomorrow night live, 8:30 p.m. British Standard Time, I will get his thoughts on that, plus much, much more. And he'll also be alongside another wrestler from a forbidden door of wrestling companies that has been broken, that is nonstop action wrestling. That is the Lawman Kyle Kennedy, who, by the way, Dustin, he's told everybody he's undefeated and he's 5-0. Just want to make sure, remind you, he's 5-0 because that's been the running line here. Every professional wrestler that comes on, when I mention the Lawman Kyle Kennedy, they go, he's 5-0, right? I go, yeah, he's undefeated. So that's something I'm sure entertainment for you and everybody else here.
Bring him to CCW, I'll break his record.
Yeah, well, we'll see here. Slugger was not robbed. He put up a terrific performance, but on the night, unfortunately, was second best. Well, I mean, look.
He knows best, Uncle Ralph. He knows the You know,
it's a tough break here. It's a tough break here. But before I really want to get to your match because I actually have a lot to say in it. But I'll get to one more comment from Mr. Barris here. Dustin, how is the simmer frame of the Heritage doing?
Well, you'll find out when I wrap it around your neck.
Ooh, well, that's certainly big words here, to say the least, on Sportswire Radio. So certainly we'll figure that out here very shortly. But let's get to your match here coming up next Friday at Lapman Lockdown. Obviously, it's consecutive sellout number 10, as we pointed out here. And it's a really intriguing match because you're going to be teaming up with somebody that also looks very, very interesting, and somebody that, I would definitely say I would be very, very curious to see what happens in the ring for his opponent, and that is Ulfric Winterwolf. And he certainly looks like he might see a winter blast or two for his opponents in the ring. So, I mean, set the tables for us and what we can expect, because it's interesting because we have a wrestler named Winterwolf, and then we also have a wrestler named Blizzard. So, I mean, we think about it right now, we're kind of in the belly of the beast of the summer, but we actually have two wrestlers. One of them is Blizzard, and the other one is Winterwolf. So, I mean, were you guys in CCW or yourself trying to come up with a winter reference here? Or maybe give us some colder weather? I mean, so...
Funny enough, Ulfric has been around for quite a while.
I know that. It was kind of a running joke here about the winter reference because it's been so hot around the world, and unfortunately, we're getting that here right now in New York. But I mean, set the tables for us in this match. A really, really intriguing match, and what can we expect?
Well, you can expect lots of high flying stuff because you know me, I love leaving my feet. You can expect lots of big, powerful stuff because Ulfric, he has my back and I trust him. And he is a big, powerful force. And then we've got Blizzard and Jam Dog. Oh, two of the biggest, the hardest hitting in CCW.
I saw that. I saw Jam Dog, and I was like, boy, that's going to be a match where you might have a few marks afterwards.
Well, they don't fear me. I'll still give them 110%. They hit me hard, I'll hit them harder.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, big, big words here. But let me get to somebody that's a big supporter of Sportswire Radio, and we'll be doing some interviews on behalf of in the near and distant future. That is Mr. Big Snoop of Prozone Gaming Division. And if you certainly are a streamer and you like gaming content and you like all things related to games, because wrestlers and video games, I mean, they go hand in hand. And Mr. Big Snoop and I was speaking a couple of days ago. We were talking about wrestling, and he goes, well, I'm not the biggest wrestling fan anymore, but I still love playing wrestling video games. So certainly if you are a gamer and you love wrestling, I highly encourage you go over to Prozone Gaming Division. Also, the hashtag PZGD. That's PZGD because Prozone Gaming Division is certainly supporters of ours here on Sportswire Radio. And if you do like what you hear from Prozone Gaming Division, I highly encourage you follow them on Twitter at ProzoneGD. You can also go to FNTSXYP because that's the event that Prozone Gaming Division is putting on next year. It'll be a 3-day, 2-night event in Santa Ana, California, where we'll see creators, co-players, gamers. It's a beach retreat, so you name it, they're going to have it. So definitely pack your bags. We're inviting all gamers, content creators. This will be in Santa Ana, California. We'll have theme nights. We'll have bonfires, plus much, much more. You can follow Mr. Big Snoop for more information and details on that. Also, PZGD is the hashtag, ProzoneGD also on Twitter. Also follow the gang on Instagram for all of their great content here. So we'll come back to the match in a second. I do have some more comments. And Jack Bartley also wants to remind me, you also have the Chuckle Crew representative, Jamie Mack. So I think he kind of made that on. Yes. You want to mention the Chuckle Crew representative for a second before I get to more Barris?
Yeah, Jamie Mack, he is part of the Chuckle Crew. I call him Jam Dog because he looks like a dog, Yeah. And he is a really big force.
Jamie Mack, I have to say, I have to give a shout out to Jamie Mack because Jamie Mack has been on a number of our streams here on Sportswire Radio, and that's why I was kind of looking. We were speaking afterwards. I'm like, no, that's Jamie Mack, and then you were calling him Jam Dog. You were telling me just what you call him, obviously, in the ring. So, I mean, that's interesting, and Jamie is obviously somebody that I definitely want to have on here, Sportswire Radio, in the near and distant future, and certainly the Chuckle Crew's a little different, though, than the CWL. Fair to say?
Most definitely. They're all about fun, games, laughs, and
They almost,
torture.
in fact, I'm going to make everybody laugh here because when you said some of those things, they almost remind me of a cross of the BWO, the Blue World Order, and also a kind of mix of the oddities way back in the day. Because when you said all that stuff, I'm like, well, that certainly means that it could be a mix of the BWO and also obviously the oddities. And certainly that's some interesting groups that I just mentioned. And make sure that you do follow all things related to the Chuckle Crew and Jamie Mack as well. Certainly, if you look at him in the ring, yes, they definitely they may pack a punch, but they may make an even bigger laugh. So certainly that is what makes CCW so great. And Mr. Barris says more like the Laughing Stock Crew. Well, I'm not going to quite go that far. I mean, I'm not going to go quite that far here. So, I'm sure Mr. Hart might have something to say about that. But I think he meant to say Dustin teaming with Wolfie, aka the Paint My Face Posse. So you want to respond to that? I kind of think that this is going to be a really intriguing match because looking at Ulfric and looking at yourself, in some ways though, I kind of think there's versatility in this match a little bit. Is that fair to say that you guys might bring some versatility with each other as a tag team?
Yeah, but what people got to realize is with Winterwolf is this man doesn't stay on his feet. This man is a really big guy and he flies.
I saw that. Yes, I saw some of his footage, and I was like, he's definitely not your usual big man. Where you have some big men in the ring, and they kind of just stand there and they wait for you, and you punch him back, but they really can't do anything else. No, he's kind of nimble a little bit. He's certainly very nimble on his feet here. So, and Mr. Barris does say he meant to say Dustin. Okay, so I mean, no, but going into a match like this though, where you guys don't team regularly. And we obviously see Blizzard and Jamie Mack, they may have maybe more of a relationship, let's say, as an example. How do you maybe get used to your tag team partner when you guys haven't teamed regularly? I'm always curious about that question. So what do you do in a situation like this?
Being experienced in the game, you adapt, evolve, and learn damn quick.
But how quick can you learn if you haven't teamed with somebody as frequently, let's say, as you and Rob? And you and Rob are like brothers. But when it comes to Ulfric Winterwolf, you and him, I mean, there really isn't a tag team history there.
No, but I can watch his footage, some of the moves he does, some of the techniques he uses, and I can use some of them and adapt them to what I do.
So do you talk with him before the match? Do you guys... I mean, don't tell us the strategy. Don't tell us how you're going to win the match.
That would be telling. That would be letting secrets out. And I don't do that.
Okay,
no.
Do you guys talk on social media? Do you text each other? I mean, don't tell us what you do in the ring. Don't tell us how you plan out the match. But do you guys communicate in that way?
Yeah, we talk through WhatsApp.
Oh, okay, yeah, I figured that I figured at least there would be some communication there because obviously we know that people listen to this from all over. So don't
WhatsApp. Just Ulfric when he talks to the spirits and sends signals. They do turn up now and then.
So it's a little different though, still than talking to him versus Prince Dagan, right? At least you don't have to learn Latin. I mean, that's certainly. People ask me. I had people message me and said, "Do you know how to speak Latin?" And I said, "Well, I mean, I didn't even do very good in Spanish, so I'll have to kind of figure it out here." And Mr. Bartley,
translate me. I have to Google translate.
Listen, I have to Google everything. I have a hard time speaking English, let alone everything else here. But Jack Bartley says Ulfric certainly does fly. Went over the top rope to save Bat Pigeon in the last show. Good point. That's a good point. That's got to help you, I think, in this match, knowing that you did talk about the jumping, the leaping aspect, the high flying that Ulfric brings to the table. I mean, maybe that makes you feel pretty confident going into this match.
Well, having somebody who has the similar abilities to what I have, it makes me feel really confident. This guy's got a fair few year experience. Like we're talking, maybe he's 8, 9 years plus. And he's a very technical, powerful guy. And get on the wrong side of him, you're going to regret it. And you're going to wish you weren't on the wrong side of him.
How different... Yeah, go ahead, jump in.
I think with me and him as a tag team, I think it's a good combination. Really good combination that's going to work well.
I was going to ask you about that because talking about some of those things here, I mean, you have to feel confident then going into this match, teaming with somebody that has the kind of abilities that an Ulfric Winterwolf has. I mean, you got to feel pretty good here then going into this.
Yeah, I do feel quite confident, quite good, knowing I've got a really experienced and confident tag partner.
And I almost have to ask you a question because obviously we've touched upon the contract a little bit, but I want to phrase it in a different way and give me your thoughts on this in terms of the fact that you've got some momentum right now, regardless of when you get the contract, how you get the contract, you have some momentum. You got a huge win. A lot of people had different things that they thought about at different people, but you have a huge win under your belt right now. There's no question that eventually you're going to get this contract, right? One way or another, you're going to get the contract, right? But so going into this, then, I mean, how important is it for you to continue the momentum that you built at the last show with the win here to continue where we want to see you go forward in CCW?
The momentum's never going to stop. It's just going to build and build and build and build, and every wall that steps in front of us is going to get knocked down until I hit them titles.
No question about that here. Dustin Heart is definitely going to show why he leads the underground next week here at Colory Championship Wrestling's Lapman Lockdown. So I do have a comment here from somebody that you're going to be across the apron from, and that is Mr. Jam Dog himself, Jamie Mack. And he says here, "Hi, Dustin. Remember, I get on the wrong side of guys like Ulfric just for fun." Ooh.
We know you do, you crazy man. You are crazy. I know you get on the wrong side of people just for fun. But let's see what happens next week.
Well, I certainly think that that could be a cue of things to come. And Jack Bartley says, "I procured my contract from Ulfric at Last Man Standing too."
That he did. That he did.
And that's
He
why Mr. Bartley's in the match that he's in. And that's why Mr. Bartley very well could be our next reigning, defending CCW World Champion. And that certainly could maybe put Top Tier's tenuous hold on things in CCW. But Uncle Ralph chimes in here and says, "Dustin's speed and Ulfric's strength is a combination to cause problems." Yeah, in some ways, you guys almost, because we had on a boxer earlier this week, Mark the Tank Allen, who's getting ready to fight on pay-per-view, and he's also a huge wrestling fan. So, Mr. Barris, you might want to go on my Facebook page and look at Mark the Tank Ellens, because the interview got like almost 1,500 views, and I'm telling you, if you look at him, he looks like he could be somebody that could be in the ring for CCW. He looks like somebody that could literally be a tank, and I think, Mr. Barris, I saw one of your posts on Facebook about tanks, so I'm telling you, do yourself a favor for business purposes. Go find out this guy, Mark the Tank Ellens. Go find out who he is. I'm telling you, it'll be worth it, and he might put a few butts in the seats. But when it comes to that, going over to kind of the boxing reference where you've got your speed, his strength, do you feel like, in a way, maybe that is a combination that your opponents, Blizzard and Jam Dog, really haven't seen in the ring?
Well, I think it's a perfect combination. With Blizzard and Jam Dog, you've got two big, powerful people. Now, can they get along? Can they see eye to eye to exist as a tag team in this match? Or will they argue, bicker, and, well, have a power trip, let's say? You know, I'm stronger. No, you're stronger. Because, you know, two big guys tend to have that. You know, they tend to
True.
show off.
We see it all the time in wrestling. It happens all the time where you see big guys certainly kind of come at it from almost the same side and they don't see eye to eye. And that could certainly be the case. I wanted to ask you something on a personal level. I know it's affected a lot of people in CCW, and I feel like I wouldn't be doing my job here if I didn't ask it. And what did Gaz mean to you, and what did he mean to so many people in CCW? Because I feel like I know it's been a tough last couple days for the locker room, and I know how much he meant to the company, and I know we're kind of breaking the third wall here a little bit, but I feel like if I didn't mention it, I would basically be doing a disservice to so many people that support us on Sportswire Radio, and most importantly, what he meant to CCW. So if you don't mind, you're one of the first people I'm going to speak to about this since, and I'll get Slugger's thoughts on it tomorrow. So give me your thoughts on this.
Right. Professionally, as CCW's main and only van driver, he was the guy who turned up first thing in the morning, stayed throughout the show to last thing of night, and to bring that ring back to lock up. This guy was well loved. He made a massive friends and family in CCW. Now, onto a personal note, Gaz is actually my brother from another mother. Me, him, and Mikey, we were like the three amigos. We were always together, always pulling pranks, always having laughs. And to be honest, losing him after Sean, too much. It's something I wish nobody could ever go through and would ever feel the pain. And with it being so raw as yesterday, we lay him to rest. It still really hurts. But like guys would want us to do, he would want us to keep our head held high. He would want us to carry on, and he would want us to continue smashing these shows out the ballpark. Tomorrow, we unfortunately have to do this all over again because we have one of our eldest fans. Unfortunately, the lady passed away, and her last wish was to have our members at CCW take her to a place of rest. So we will do that. We will be all painted up and everything, and we will all be there to do the best we can.
Well, I want to send my condolences to the entire roster, and I certainly want to also send condolences to the family of Gaz and obviously to this fan that CCW meant so much to. And obviously, I know it's a difficult time. It's still a difficult time in the world. And obviously, we've seen the weather and the impact on that and everything else going on. So I can only imagine what, so many are going through, but especially our CCW family, because we know, in speaking about CCW over the past few months on Sportswire Radio, what CCW has meant to so many people, and especially the locker room. I know it's been some stuff that was out there in the past, but this is really where it hits home the most. And certainly, again, I can't enough stress our thoughts and prayers to everybody impacted by these losses, and certainly on Sportswire Radio, we will do our best to put our good foot forward here. And let me get to, do I call him Damian Stone or John Rowlandson at this point? But I know we'll have him back on next week with Colin McGregor. We'll preview the card, although, unfortunately, I'm going to have to move our stream Monday because I actually have to work for the first time in a while during the times I usually record. And if we can do it maybe Wednesday night, that would be great, guys. So maybe if you have some time Wednesday, we can certainly go over the card. But for John Rowlandson or Damian Stone, I don't even know at this point. I'll get to Colin in a second. But between the two of them, they could be an unstoppable machine. All it needs is the lubrication of communication. I think he's referring to Blizzard and Jam Dog. I think that's who he's referring to.
He's really
yeah,
he is right. He is right, Moise says. He's a very clever man.
That's why we love him here, and that's why we bring him on each and every month here before our shows on CCW. So it means we'll be seeing him and Colin quite a bit here over the next month. So certainly, we'll see how it all ends up here. Colin also goes the heart of the heritage, although Dustin Heart is not elite. So that is certainly his thoughts. And
I am the heart of the heritage.
Well, yeah, we know that. That we know. And Mr. Big Snoop gives us a pound of fire. Well, it is really hot, literally. I think it's at this point. I read something that I think like half the world is like at burning record temperatures or something like that. So why am I not surprised?
Jack, temperatures over here since we've had the record.
Yeah, I saw that. I was actually reading because I'm a newspaper carrier, and this was about 3:00 in the morning my time. And when I normally don't read the paper as I'm making it, but I kind of glanced. I'm like, well, let me check here. I think it was a story in the Associated Press, and it showed Europe and especially the UK, the United Kingdom, that they were at record temperatures, and they basically showed like what the degrees were, and it was like 22 degrees for you guys, and I was like, wow. That's really bad. I mean, we're almost about to get to that. I think we're about to get into 99, which would be about 21, I think, 20 or 21 degrees with you guys. And it's right there, right? So it's, it's not ideal. And Jack says we'll pull the house down for Gaz next week, which I have no doubt for. And for all of our other absent friends, he gives a heart. And Mr. Big Stoop reminds us that it's even hotter in Las Vegas because he lives in Las Vegas. And he was telling me basically to translate, it's got to be about 24. 115 equals what, 24, something like that, 24 and a half or something like that. So that's like scorching. That's record breaking. So, yeah. And And Gemma said we had 34 degrees yesterday. Oh, even higher than I read. Wow. So I read for whatever reason. Maybe I need to get my eyes checked, but I read like 20, it was 20 something degrees I read yesterday.
Yeah, the different parts of the country. Some parts will be 20 odd degrees, and the further south you go, the hotter it gets.
Oh my God. Well, that
So,
means you know what that, I'll make everybody laugh. You know what that reminds me of? I'll make everybody laugh here. If you ever remember the movie Terminator 2, and there's a scene in the movie where it's Sarah Connor's character is sitting on, like, it has to be maybe like a park bench or something, and she's like sitting there and she's like looking, and they kind of envision like when the world, like something will happen as the world will end, and they show like all of a sudden like everything burning. I kind of feel like that this is the moment right now. This is pretty much that moment. So, and
she goes over the fence and she gets obliterated off all the heat.
yeah, well, you know what? I always tell people ask me, they say, how will you feel when you go out? I say, well, I had a good run and nice knowing everybody. So if this is the case where I'm going to burn to death, I say, listen, CCW, it was great knowing you, and don't shed a tear or two for me. Just hopefully you have a cooling fan or not.
Ever since CCW was formed, the planets seem to get hotter.
Yeah, you know what? Well, it's getting hotter because you guys keep selling everything out. That's the most important part. And Jack Bartley says Scotland was 32 yesterday. And Graham Guest reminds me that it got to 38 in my area. Absolutely mental heat. My goodness. You know what? I am the biggest idiot because I kept telling everybody, oh, wow, I can't wait for summer. I can't wait for summer because we had I guess it was a really difficult winter this past year. The last two of them actually were really bad. And now I'm saying, you know what? Maybe I wish I went back to winter because at least in winter, I could put a coat on and some gloves and I go out my merry way. Now I feel like I don't even want to get up and get outside and do anything. And I'm supposed to. So that's, we'll find out how I feel.
Funny enough, you mentioned winter. For the last 10 to 15 years in the UK, we're slowly losing our winters. You know, like last year, we barely had any snow.
Really? Okay. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird because in New York, we had like the first 2 months of winter were like it was balmy. Actually, 2/3 of the winter. Then all of a sudden, it just got prolonged cold, and it was actually up until about like a month ago. It was like the first week of June, and it was actually one night I actually slept with like a long blanket on, and I had like a sweater underneath. And now it's like record heat. So yeah, who knows what's going on here in the world? I'm gonna stick to my Terminator 2 reference. That's how I feel right now with the Sarah Connor scene and everything else like that. But let's bring it back home here for about 10 or 15 more minutes. Speaking with Dustin Heart, we appreciate Dustin's time here as he's going to heat things up next week at Lapman Lockdown when it comes to his huge tag team match with Ulfric Winterwolf, and they'll be against Blizzard and Jamdog. Very, very excited about that. And Dustin has a lot of momentum right now because he has the contract here that he is waiting for. He's waiting for James Barris to give it to him, but he still has that contract. But something tells me he'll figure it out one way or another. And I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here at Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. I want to touch upon two things here quickly. And the first is Taylor Troots in the CWO. What do you make of that, and what can we expect from Taylor in the CWO?
Well, that was a perfect choice. We needed somebody in the CWO who has the gift of the gab.
Somebody that he does. That I know.
That he does. Somebody who will be truthful. Just like us. We're nice guys. We tell the truth. We get on with stuff. And we do it the right way. Now, Taylor, that smooth talk with a D-Stalker, that was just perfection. Just to be able to have him as part of CWO, that's just perfection.
Okay, well, something tells me here Taylor is definitely going to have something to say about that, and he always has something to say. That's why we kind of like Taylor. In fact, I want to wish him a happy belated birthday once again, because last week was his birthday, so I did wish him a happy birthday on the air, but it's not necessary for me to wish him a happy birthday again, but happy birthday anyway, because I just did it. But I want to ask you a question that I don't think I heard Slugger ask you this question on your show with him a couple weeks ago, so I want to ask it to you and maybe get your thoughts on it in terms of what are your goals going forward here in CCW?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Really good question. At the moment, my goals are to carry out the task that has been given to me. That will be revealed in due time.
Okay.
Once that's accomplished, and I think maybe me and the CWO might be looking for some gold.
Well, we heard Rob Bagwell talk about that on last month's show with him, and I know he's kind of had his eyes on the Light and the Dark Championship. And I mean, don't tell us exactly what title you might be having your eyes on, but I do see gold in the future. Maybe you'll be looking at.
Well, I've had gold in the past. I've had the World Heavyweight Champion of CCW Underground Champion, and I can see it happening in the future. It'll happen at
No,
the right time with the right person. They'll think they're clever. It'll bite them in the backside.
now, correct me if I'm wrong. On Slugger's show, I actually saw you hold up the picture of one of your bigger moments in wrestling and winning a championship. And
That was when I was facing Ronnie Thatcher.
yep, yep.
That was some match. We even ripped the canvas up on that one. We ripped the canvas up. We smashed each other off the bare wood. We took it to the outside. We had it in the inside. We on the ladders. We had Lego. We had thumbtacks. We had plastic boards. We had kendo sticks, mine carts, everything. And it was so much fun. So much fun. And to
Well,
walk out,
sounds like you guys definitely were in a little bit of pain after the match. That I would probably be assured of.
pain's only in the mind, and it only lasts.
I've heard that before. I've heard that before. That was famously when I was in college. They would say in psychology, well, you're only in pain because your body's sending you a message and a signal, but you're really not in pain. So I guess that's kind of your thought on that here. And also, we get another comment here. I guess maybe I'll call him Damian Stone / John Rollinson. Glebe Center, a colory Christmas carol, an amazing match to observe and call. And that
Yeah.
place has never been the same since. I could certainly see why. And Jack Bartley says Taylor Truths is a perfect fit for you guys, exemplifies all you stand for. And he also says, I remember it well, colory Christmas carol. It was a draw dropping match here. And then Jam Dog, aka Jamie Mack, says that sounds like a fun night to me. And then Michael Brown comes in here and says that match was amazing to witness. Dustin and Ronnie for the belt. Let me ask you then a follow-up question in a sense before we get to a few other things and closing thoughts. What makes them a great match for you? I mean, do you know, like when, let's take that match with Ronnie. Did you know right away? Did you know beforehand? Like when you're in a moment like that, how soon is it that you know the match is going to be a classic?
Well, you can tell when you get about 2 minutes in if it's
Okay.
going to be a match or it's not, because things will run smoothly, and if they don't, you think on your toes, don't you?
Yeah, I kind of heard Bret Hart say that once. I think when he was talking about WrestleMania 9 with Yokozuna, like the first few minutes, and he knew it was going to be like a classic. And obviously, the second half of the match he wasn't crazy of, but the first half he knew like right away that. So I guess it's the same thing for you. You know right away then if it's going to be good or not.
Well, when there's ever weapons involved, it's
Oh,
always
okay. Well, that's a good point too. I hadn't thought of it that way. Certainly, when you have wrestlings and other utilities in a match, that could certainly be a reason as to why it might be a good match because, well, you get some
the
tools.
reason matches because there was a lot of build up to that. There was a lot of
Yep.
assaults, kidnappings, and stuff like that involving the elite and the undergrounders. Roddy kidnapping underground fans and stuff like that, and me and him finally getting into that ring, and we just went for it, full on.
Oh, you guys definitely did, to say the least here. And certainly, if you can find a way to watch that match, and if there's a way to do it, definitely do that. But if you can't, I would highly encourage, because I know this show is sold out. Make sure after July 29th, make sure you make sure after July 29th, you go out and buy a ticket. Buy a ticket to Coloring Championship Wrestling, because if you don't do it the next day, I highly encourage there's a chance you may not likely be able to get in and watch the show, because these tickets, they go fast. They go like hotcakes. They burn it up like midnight oil, no pun intended. So definitely you want to make sure you get these tickets, because that is going to be the way that you are going to watch Dustin Hart. And the doors, by the way, next Friday open at 6:30. So make sure you get there. Actually, not at 6:30. Get there like 5:30, because there's going to be a line. It is going to be packed. It is going to be crowded. So make sure you get there early, because you want to make sure you get into your seat and make sure that you stay there. because certainly Jack Bartley is reminding me also that was it 4 hours that this one sold out? Yeah, did I hear that somewhere? I think I heard it. Was it either this show or one of the shows that it sold out literally when tickets went on sale in like 4 hours?
Just shy of 4 hours. I think it was 3 hours of 30, 45 minutes.
Wow. Wow.
No, but this is what I'm saying. This next show, when our tickets go out, people's going after it really, really fast.
That's amazing to me. And I wanted to touch upon it very quickly before we move on here and get to some closing thoughts. Is that I was watching a documentary on it was the UWF, and it was Herb Adams, and they were talking about how he books this event. It's the last event the company has at the MGM Grand, right? 17,000 seats. And he's going, oh my God, I booked it, right? And then it turns out he sold so few tickets that I'm sure that CCW and GTM easily blow past. I don't even want to say how many tickets he sold. Actually, in fact, it was like 200 tickets. So I would rather be CCW. I would rather be GTM. I would rather be what these guys and gals do in terms of selling out in 3 hours and 34 minutes rather than book the MGM Grand. And God knows how much money you lost on that in terms of booking the venue and then selling 100 or 200 tickets and then being on pay-per-view, and God knows only how many buys they had, because it only must have been, I could only imagine. That's kind of why the owner of the company was found dead about a year and a half later. So I could certainly, it was interesting. It was a Dark Side of the Ring I actually saw. One night I was up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't close my eyes, which is a regular thing because I don't sleep very well. And I wound up watching this documentary on the UWF, and it was an interesting experience on that. So I'm glad that CCW sells out within 3 hours and 30 minutes. And I have no doubt that the next 3 shows after this will all do the same, maybe even sooner. So those are some things here. But Dustin, I want to ask you this question before I get to closing thoughts here. And obviously, it's been a tremendous honor to have you. And certainly, I look forward to talking with you after the match. And glad after all this time, we finally got to speak. But I want to give you the floor. And is there anything that you want to say to your opponents coming in the ring next Friday? Anything you want to say particular to Blizzard and Jam Dog before you meet them?
Jam, I've known you for a lot of years, a lot longer than CCW has been around. I know for fine certain fact what you are capable of. And I know you're going to bring that A+ game. And I'm looking forward to it. Fun, games, inside that ring, full power. That's what I expect. Blizzard, what can I say? We all know what you're capable of. We all know you are nuts. You bring the force. And it is exactly like a Blizzard when you step in that ring. But even Blizzards, you can fight, you can battle, but they die down. Always die down after so much time. And what's left after the Blizzard's gone? Me.
Ladies and gentlemen, it sounds like a heat wave is coming for Blizzard and Jam Dog, and it seems like they are certainly going to burn to a crisp if they haven't already, because Dustin effing Heart and Ulfric Winterwolf are going to be their kryptonite. And certainly we are excited about Lapman Lockdown, to say the least. And Uncle Ralph says, Tom, I must say my first visit to GTM was a terrific experience. A fine card and so nice to meet so many nice guys. I mean, I almost have to ask you a follow-up. I mean, Dustin, would you want to be a part of things in GTM ever? Would you want to wrestle in other companies? Because GTM, what I love about GTM very quickly is that they have no problem in working with other companies, like CCW, obviously, like Nonstop Action Wrestling, who's also worked with CCW, like BTW and Bolton Town Wrestling and Blackheart Wrestling and Immortal Wrestling, some other companies that are certainly very, very apt to working with others. I mean, would you want to wrestle or appear at other places, or what's your thoughts on that?
If I said no, I'd be lying. Of course I would. Oh, wait. Who wouldn't? But what people's got to realise, I'm not in it to run around the country. I'm in it for CCW. I was here from day one. I built this from day one. I've been here every single day. Now, to try and take me away from that, that's going to be some task.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I think we got the answer that we're looking for here. Ulfric will be gunning for Jam after we beat him last show. That is certainly fair. If there's one thing I know about in wrestling, it's heat. This is no sweat to me. Well, yeah, I mean, that's true. And certainly nobody can run from the heat right now. So certainly those are all great things. And can we get a shirt like yours, Dustin Heart? Are there shirts available?
There are shirts available if you contact CCW. They are available. But the hoodies are not available. We don't do hoodies yet.
All right, fair enough. Listen, at this point, nobody needs hoodies. Listen, nobody needs hoodies anyway. We've established the fact here of how hot it is right now around the world. So hoodies, they can wait for at least another, hopefully, 4 or 5 months. So certainly right now, we don't need hoodies. T-shirts, certainly you can contact CCW because we definitely see that the world order is definitely alive in the CWO. And they are certainly stronger, bigger, better than ever because it's Dustin Hart. It's Rockstar Rob Bagwell. It is also now Taylor Truce, maybe even Prince Dagan. Stay tuned. And that hoodie is a one of a kind. Well, obviously, because Dustin just told us that. But obviously, it has been a tremendous honor. I certainly am looking forward to speaking with you here after this match and going to see the future of Dustin Hart and see why that you are the leader of the Underground and why you are CWO for life. So I turn it over to you, my friend. I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts and anything you want to plug, share, say. I can't thank you enough, and the floor is yours.
It's been an absolute pleasure and a dream to get on here and have a conversation with you. So professional. Every time I listen to you and talk to you, you have so much respect and you are so professional in the work you do. And it has been my pleasure to be part of your show.
I appreciate that. And certainly we can find you on Facebook at Dustin Hart. Give him a friend request. Also, Colory Championship Wrestling. Because I've noticed, I don't think you're on Twitter or Instagram. That's what I've noticed. Okay.
I only do Facebook. I'm not a big technology person.
Okay.
I'm an old dog, like Barry says.
Well, I know I've heard that on prior streams, but I want to plead the fifth on that because certainly I am while I'm young, I'm not as young as maybe some of the wrestlers I normally have on here, Sportzwire Radio. So I certainly don't. As I was reminded this morning, I'm closer to let's say 40 than I am to 20, but that doesn't mean that I'm 40 by a long shot. But that means that I am in my mid-30s, so that's all the answer is. So I don't.
You're young pups,
I hear you. Trust me, I hear you. But I don't respect many folk in the wrestling world. However, I do respect Dustin. Looking forward to next week. Have a nice night, gents. Yes, and we will certainly try to get you on. I don't know if I can get you on next week, but I'm going to try. I'm going to figure it out. I actually might be able to because Tuesday I have JPR. Wednesday, hopefully we can get Rollinson and McGregor. And certainly Uncle Ralph says, remember, old is gold. Yes, that is certainly, I've heard that. And I do promote Justin and CCW on TikTok. Yeah, which I've been asked, do I have TikTok? And I'm like, unfortunately, I just don't have the time because I've got YouTube, I've got LinkedIn, I've got Instagram, I've got Twitter. I don't have the time. Unfortunately, I don't have the time. But that's here and there. But my friend, congratulations on all the success so far. Congratulations on this contract. Let's see if you get it, hopefully sooner rather than later. And I'm looking forward to watch you in the ring next week. I'm certainly looking forward to speaking with you quite a bit over the next month. I know you're going to be a very, very busy man, and best of luck out there, and congratulations to all the things that CCW has done. You've been a huge part of it as the first one, and I'm looking forward to much, much more from you, and I can't thank you enough, and we'll speak with you soon.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here on Sportswire Radio. We were just with pro wrestling star, the leader of the Underground, that is Dustin Hart, and Dustin is getting ready for a huge tag team match upcoming at CCW's Lapman Lockdown. He'll be in the ring alongside Ulfric Winterwolf against Blizzard and Jamdog, and that'll start at 6:30. The doors are open, so if you have a ticket, make sure you get there early and make sure you get to your seat right away because the action is going to be nonstop, literally nonstop, never stop, to borrow a phrase from one of our companies on Sportswire Radio that we work with. And we'll be back here tomorrow night we will be back here with the Lawman, Kyle Kennedy, and Slugger Hampton. So more CCW coverage starts 8:30 p.m. British Standard Time, and it looks like now we will have more wrestling coverage either before or after that, because we will have on Goliath, who was in the ring with Gareth Angel over in GTM. So we've actually, because we want Goliath, and Goliath certainly wants to talk, we're actually moving him up. We were supposed to have him here Friday night. So you know what? That's good for me, because that means Friday night I can figure I can maybe do something else for a change, and maybe see if I can beat the Heat. So we'll figure that all out. But we'll be back tomorrow night. More CCW coverage, 8:30 with Slugger Hampton. And his show is also Friday nights, 9 o'clock, the First Amendment show. So make sure you follow him and everything CCW does. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station.